Captain Jenna Core stared out of the observation deck of the Vigilant, her mind racing as the stars stretched into lines of light, flickering past the ship's engines. The Vigilant was humanity's last warship, a relic of a once proud fleet now reduced to scattered remnants. Yet in this moment, it represented hope. A chirp from the comm system broke her reverie. The signal, weak but undeniable, had arrived, encrypted and masked by layers of alien coding. It came from an unexpected source. A planetary outpost on the fringes of alien-controlled space, a location far too strategic for an unimportant target. Her instincts flared. This wasn't just any message, it was a warning. Captain, Lieutenant Rhea Draco's voice crackled through the comms, cutting through the ambient hum of the ship. We've decoded a portion of the transmission. It's about Earth. The Empire's planning to attack again. Soon. Core felt a cold shiver run down her spine. Earth, the cradle of humanity, the last bastion of their species, had been spared for a reason. The alien empire's cruel leadership believed it would break under their boot, but the planet had been an anomaly. Earth had fought back. However, they'd always known this day might come, a day when the Empire would tire of waiting and act decisively. She looked at Dracos, her longtime friend and confidant. Can we track it back to the source? The younger woman's fingers danced over her console, fingers moving with the grace of someone who had been born in the heat of battle. Not yet, Captain, but we're close. If we follow the signal, we might uncover more. Follow it. No time to waste. As the crew scrambled to follow the transmission's origin, Core paced in the command center, her boots clicking against the floor with measured steps. Her mind kept returning to the faces of those she'd lost in the years of rebellion, her comrades, her family. The galaxy was vast, but humanity's fire, what little was left, burned bright in her heart. A holographic map flickered to life before her, displaying the course of the signal. It led into uncharted territory, deep into the heart of the alien empire's domain. The danger was undeniable, but the stakes had just been raised. Earth had always been the symbol of humanity's fight, the place where they had resisted the alien onslaught for decades. Losing it would mean not just the end of humanity's fight, but the death of everything they stood for. The signals coming from a fleet, Dracos confirmed after a tense silence. They're assembling a full-scale assault. If we don't act fast, they'll hit Earth before we can warn them. Core's jaw clenched. The Vigilant wasn't built for a battle of that scale, but what choice did they have? Earth couldn't be left defenseless. We need to rally the fleet, Core said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. If they want war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. The Vigilant would be the spearhead, but it was only the beginning. As Core stared out into the vastness of space, she knew that humanity's reckoning was near. And this time, they would strike first. The Vigilant tore through space, its sleek hull vibrating from the intense speed, a lone predator charging into the heart of enemy territory. Jenna Core stood at the helm, her hands steady on the controls despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Behind her, the hum of activity in the command deck was relentless, each crew member focused on their task. But Core's mind was elsewhere, a place where plans of destruction and liberation danced in unison. Her thoughts were consumed by one thing: Earth. The signal from the alien fleet had been traced to a hidden sector, a cluster of dead worlds, surrounded by asteroids and debris, a perfect location for a fleet to conceal itself. It was there that Core and her crew had struck first, with brutal efficiency. The outposts and communication hubs that had been used to coordinate the assault on Earth were obliterated, but that was only the beginning. "We've got incoming," Dracos reported, her voice sharp with urgency. "2 ships, larger than anything we've encountered before. This is no standard patrol." Core's pulse quickened, but she didn't flinch. She knew what had to be done. Set a course for the heart of their fleet. We're going to make a statement. The order was clear, and the crew moved with practiced precision. The Vigilant adjusted its trajectory, charging toward the heart of the enemy's gathering forces. It was a bold move, one that could either cripple their plans or doom them. But Kor was not about to retreat, not when Earth was in danger. As they closed the distance, the alien ships came into view, massive, imposing vessels, their sleek hulls designed for intimidation rather than function. Kor's scanners blared with warnings. The enemy was ready for them. But so were they. "Fire on my mark," Kor commanded, her voice calm as steel. With a series of booming impacts, the first salvo from the Vigilant hit the lead alien ship. The explosion sent ripples through space, momentarily blinding them with the light of 100 dying stars. But the victory was short-lived. The alien fleet retaliated with an unrelenting fury. A wave of plasma fire streaked toward them, slamming into the shields with a force that rattled the entire ship. Kor gripped the edge of her console, staring into the chaos. "All hands, brace for impact," she shouted. The Vigilant rocked violently as more blasts struck its hull. The lights flickered, and alarms blared, but Kor refused to back down. "Return fire. Target their engines. We need them disabled before they regroup." The crew responded with disciplined fury. The ship's guns thundered, sending precise blasts toward the alien ship's vulnerable points. The enemy fleet retaliated, but Kor's crew had already adapted, anticipating their moves. The battle unfolded in the vastness of space, each shot a delicate dance of strategy and destruction. With a defiant roar, one of the alien ships exploded, its fractured pieces scattering in the cold vacuum of space. But Kor knew this was only a taste of what was to come. The alien empire would not back down so easily. The first victory was theirs, but the war had only just begun. Dracos turned toward Kor, her eyes wide with both awe and fear. "We've done it, Captain. But this is just the beginning, isn't it?" Kor nodded, her gaze fixed on the burning remains of the alien fleet. "This is just the beginning, and we're going to make them regret ever underestimating humanity." As the Vigilant sailed through the debris, a new wave of determination filled Kor's crew. The galaxy had been set on notice. Humanity would no longer be a footnote in the galaxy's history. They were rising, and the universe would tremble before them. The battle was far from over, but the Vigilant had already begun to change the course of the war. Yet as humanity's first strike echoed across the stars, Captain Jennakor's thoughts remained focused on the next phase of their rebellion. The alien empire was vast, and this victory was only the spark of a fire that would rage across the galaxy. With the remnants of the alien fleet scattered and the location of Earth's intended attack exposed, Kor knew that now was the time to go deeper into enemy space. Their first victory had captured the attention of the galaxy, but to deliver a true blow to the Empire, they would have to strike at its heart. Kor's mission was clear: infiltrate the Empire's central command world, known as Zephyrus, and cripple the Empire's ability to wage war. The path ahead was fraught with peril, but it was the only way to turn the tide for humanity. The Vigilant cut through space toward Zephyrus, a massive, fortress-like world protected by layers of defenses and orbiting fleets, a location so heavily fortified, it was said that no one had ever penetrated its defenses. Yet Kor had no intention of failing. "We'll need a team on the ground," Kor said, turning to her tactical officer, Commander Quinn Devereaux. "I want a squad of our best infiltrators. We're going to sabotage their communications and take out their command structure from within." Devereaux's eyes glinted with resolve. "Understood, Captain. But we'll need a distraction." Kor thought for a moment. She nodded. "We'll give them a distraction they won't forget." The plan was dangerous, perhaps more so than anything they had attempted before. A small strike team, including Kor herself, would infiltrate Zephyrus, while the Vigilant drew the bulk of the Empire's fleet away with a well-timed assault. The distraction would need to be enough to draw attention, but not so overwhelming that the Empire's response would be too swift. As they approached Zephyrus, the tension aboard the Vigilant was palpable. The entire crew knew the stakes. This mission could either cripple the Empire or expose the rebellion to total destruction. The alien fleet had already dispatched reinforcements, and Kor could feel the weight of their oncoming arrival pressing down on her like a thunderstorm. Prepare for deployment, Kor ordered as the Vigilant came to a halt in the asteroid belt surrounding the fortress world. The dropships launched, streaking through the void, cloaked under the cover of stealth technology. Kor's heart pounded as she watched the ships vanish from sight, her team embarking on a mission that would either end in victory or death. The Vigilant's own weapons systems powered up, and Kor's calculated risk paid off as they began firing on enemy outposts within the surrounding sectors. The strike was enough to cause confusion among the alien fleets, just the opening the infiltration team needed. Kor watched the feed from the dropships, tracking their progress as they made their way to Zephyros' surface. The first major obstacle was an impenetrable energy field, but the team's tech specialist, Lieutenant Harlan, had prepared for this. Field down in 3, 2, 1. Harlan's voice crackled through Kor's earpiece. With the field gone, the team deployed on the surface, making their way toward the heart of the Empire's command center. The world below was dark, the landscape dominated by jagged spires and towering citadels, all designed to intimidate and isolate. But Kor had something the Empire didn't: humanity's unyielding resolve. As Kor's squad infiltrated deeper into the command complex, she knew that failure was not an option. The heart of the Empire was within reach, and with it, humanity's chance to ignite the rebellion across the stars. The Vigilant hung at the edge of Zephyros' atmosphere, the battle raging in the skies above it. Kor could feel the weight of the moment pressing on her chest. Her squad was deep within the Empire's heart, and the next few minutes could change the course of the war. Yet the battle in the stars was just as intense. The alien fleet had converged around the Vigilant, drawn by the carefully executed assault on the Empire's outer defenses. But Kor had made a fatal mistake. She had underestimated just how swiftly the Empire could respond. Their enemy had brought a new weapon to the fight, a devastating new class of battleship, capable of ripping through fleets with ease. "Captain," Draco's voice cut through the chaos on the bridge. "The new ships, they've already taken out 2 of our support vessels. They're using graviton weapons, nothing we've encountered before." Kor clenched her fists. She had no time to waste. The stakes had just escalated. She had ordered the initial strike to be a distraction, but now it was a battle for survival. Divert all power to shields. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. The Vigilant rocked violently as the alien ships closed in, their weapons firing in unison, devastating the space around them. One of the enemy's graviton cannons hit the Vigilant's starboard side, sending a shockwave through the hull. Sparks flew from consoles, and emergency alarms blared throughout the ship. The shields were holding, but just barely. "Captain, our engines are at 70%, shouted Lieutenant Garrett, the engineering officer. "We won't be able to keep this up much longer." Kor's mind raced. She couldn't let the Vigilant fall, not with her team on the ground and Earth depending on their success. "Get us closer to that battleship. We'll board it if we have to." But before Garrett could respond, another hit from the alien fleet caused the ship to lurch violently, throwing crew members from their feet. Kor's hands tightened around the edge of her command console as she regained her balance. "Do it," she shouted, her voice cutting through the tension. "Move us in close. If we can disable their leader's ship, the others will fall apart." With a roar of defiance, the Vigilant broke through the enemy ranks, flying through a hailstorm of plasma fire, heading straight for the alien flagship. Kor's pulse raced as the ship shuddered under the continuous bombardment. She knew the chances of making it out alive were slim, but there was no turning back. Earth's fate rested on their success. Meanwhile, on the surface of Zephyros, Kor's strike team was deep in enemy territory, navigating a maze of corridors beneath the Empire's command center. Every step was a step closer to their target, the core of the Empire's communications and military leadership. But the deeper they went, the more they encountered resistance. Alien guards, heavily armed and determined, emerged from every corner. "This isn't just a command center," Harlan muttered over the comms. "It's a fortress." "I know," Kor replied, her voice steady despite the urgency. "But we've made it this far. Stay sharp. We move as one." The team advanced through the complex, neutralizing enemy forces with swift precision. They had to get to the control room, where the Empire's command was coordinated, the very heart of their military apparatus. But as they neared their destination, a new threat emerged. A squadron of elite alien soldiers, biomechanical warriors, surged out of the shadows. "They're not human," Deverok shouted as the first of the warriors charged. "We've got to fall back." But Kor's instincts were razor-sharp. No retreat. We fight. A fierce battle ensued. The biomechanical soldiers were stronger, faster, and more resilient than anything they had encountered. But humanity had something the aliens could never replicate: determination and ingenuity. Kor fought alongside her team, every strike purposeful, every move calculated. But the enemy pressed forward with relentless force. The corridor became a battleground of sparks, blood, and violence. "Get to the control room," Kor yelled over the din of battle, knowing that their mission could fall apart at any moment. Back on the Vigilant, Kor's gamble was paying off. The Vigilant had successfully closed the gap with the alien flagship, and now, as the enemy's fleet descended on them, the crew fought with a ferocity that matched their captain's determination. It was a fight to the death. But as Kor's strike team broke through the final barricade on the surface of Zephyris, a chilling realization dawned on her: the real battle was just beginning. The explosion rocked the surface of Zephyris as Kor's team fought their way deeper into the heart of the Empire's fortress. The walls of the command center were shaking, alarms screeching through the corridors, but still, they pressed on. The command room was within reach. Kor's pulse pounded in her ears as she and her team fought to clear the last of the alien forces guarding the central chamber. "I can see the control room," Deverok shouted, firing off a shot that took down another biomechanical warrior. "We're almost there." But the corridors were teeming with more resistance than anticipated. The Empire's elites had mobilized everything they had to stop humanity from crippling their war machine. The path ahead was a maze of barricades, automated turrets, and last-ditch defenses. "Captain, this place is fortified like a bunker," Harlan warned as he worked furiously to disable a heavy energy field blocking their path. "We need to move faster. They're sending reinforcements." Kor's eyes narrowed, every fiber of her being focused on the mission. There was no turning back now. "We're not stopping. Keep pushing forward." The team surged forward, cutting through the alien defenses with brutal efficiency. The sound of gunfire and explosions echoed through the complex, but Kor's focus remained singular: the control room. There they would deliver the death blow to the alien Empire's central command. Just as they reached the final barricade, an explosion rocked the hallway, throwing them to the ground. Kor's body slammed into the cold metal floor, but she quickly regained her footing. The room ahead was now visible, less than 100 feet away. She could see the flicker of alien energy shields and the faint outline of command consoles, brimming with enemy leadership. But then came the voice. It was deep, commanding, and alien, vibrating through the air like a blade cutting through silence. "You should not have come here, human." A massive figure appeared in the doorway of the control room, flanked by more biomechanical soldiers. The figure was towering, armored in dark, iridescent plating. A leader, one Kor knew would be difficult to defeat. The alien commander's eyes glowed a menacing red, the color of rage. Kor's stomach twisted. This was the one who had orchestrated the invasion of Earth. "I am Commander Vornak," the alien said, his voice dripping with disdain. "And you are foolish to think that you can defeat the Empire." Kor didn't hesitate. "We're not here to defeat you, Vornak. We're here to end you." With a roar, Vornak surged forward, his massive weapon swinging with deadly precision. His biomechanical soldiers followed suit, engaging the team in brutal hand-to-hand combat. The air crackled with the intensity of battle as Kor's squad did their best to hold the line, but the odds were rapidly stacking against them. "Take him down," Kor shouted as she fired her weapon, hitting one of the biomechanical soldiers square in the chest. But the enemies were relentless. In the skies above, the Vigilant fought for its life. The alien fleet, despite suffering heavy damage, was regrouping around their flagship, determined to eliminate humanity's last hope. Kor's crew held their ground, desperately trying to keep the Vigilant in one piece as more alien ships closed in. The new battleships, powered by the graviton weapons, were closing in fast. "Captain," Dracos shouted from the bridge, "we can't hold them off for much longer. The fleet's overwhelming us." Kor gritted her teeth, determined not to let her crew die in vain. She keyed in a command on her wrist console. "Release the beacon. All forces, prepare for the final strike." Back on the surface, the situation was growing dire. The alien commander was not just a formidable fighter, but his presence was a terrifying symbol of the Empire's might. Yet, Kor could feel the shifting tides of battle. Every second counted. The control room was within their grasp. "You think you can stop us? You think you can take down the might of the Zithar Empire?" Vornak sneered, his voice like thunder. Kor met his gaze, her eyes steely. "We don't need to stop you. We just need to make sure you never hurt Earth again." And with that, the final battle for the galaxy's future began. The air inside the control room was thick with tension, heavy from the sound of battle echoing through the walls. Kor's strike team fought furiously against the biomechanical soldiers, their weapons clashing with the cold precision of the alien invaders. She could feel the pulse of adrenaline rushing through her veins, and yet the weight of the moment still bore down on her. Every second counted. Commander Vornak, the towering figure leading the charge, was a force unto himself. He moved with terrifying speed for his size, his weapon, a jagged, razor-edged blade, slicing through the air, forcing Kor and her team to stay on the defensive. She blocked a strike just in time, the force of his weapon sending a shockwave through her body, rattling her bones. "You're strong," Kor panted, stepping back, blood dripping from a cut on her arm. "But you're not invincible." Vornak's eyes burned with a mixture of anger and amusement. "You underestimate the Empire, human. You have no idea what you're truly facing." Kor's eyes narrowed, and with a roar of defiance, she launched herself at him, dodging a slash from his blade. Her own weapon found its mark, narrowly missing his chest, but damaging his armor. Sparks flew as the energy barrier flared to life around him, absorbing the impact. But that wasn't her goal. She needed to tire him, break through his defenses, and get to the command console. And there, the key to the Empire's downfall lay. The team fought with everything they had, each member holding their own in the face of overwhelming odds. Lieutenant Devereaux was locked in close combat with one of Vornak's elite soldiers, her blades flashing with each strike. Harlan, the tech specialist, was working furiously to hack into the control systems, his hands a blur as he bypassed security protocols, attempting to disable the Empire's central communications grid. "We're almost there, Captain," Harlan shouted, sweat dripping down his face as he frantically typed commands into the console. "The mainframe is almost down." Kor gritted her teeth, keeping her focus on Vornak, who was now shifting between attacks and defensive stances, clearly aware of her growing proximity to the control center. "Not yet," Kor muttered to herself. She couldn't let him close the gap. She had to finish this, and fast. With a deft movement, she managed to land a series of blows on Vornak's weapon, disarming him momentarily. But before she could land the finishing strike, the alien commander surged forward, grabbing Kor by the throat and lifting her off the ground. His cold eyes glowed with hatred. "You truly believe you can destroy what we've built?" he snarled. Kor's vision blurred from the pressure, but a fire burned in her chest. She wasn't about to give up now. not when Earth's survival was at stake. With a forceful yell, she kicked him in the chest, sending Vornak stumbling back. The strike gave her just enough time to regain her footing. She reached for a small device strapped to her belt, an EMP grenade designed to disrupt alien technology on a massive scale. "Take this," Kor shouted, tossing the grenade at the control console. The device exploded in a flash of white light, sending a wave of electromagnetic interference through the room. Sparks flew from the alien machinery as the console sputtered and died, the once thriving heart of the Empire's war apparatus now reduced to rubble. The room went silent. For a moment, it felt as if time itself had frozen. Kor stood at the center of it all, breathing heavily, her body battered but unbroken. The battle still raged outside the walls of the command center, but she knew the tide had turned. The Empire's grip on the galaxy was weakening, and with it, the threat to Earth was nearly over. But before she could allow herself even a moment of relief, the alarms began to blare once more. "The fleet," Devereaux shouted from the doorway. "The alien ships, they're retreating." Kor's heart surged. This wasn't just a victory. It was the beginning of the end for the Empire. But Vornak wasn't done yet. As he rose to his feet, his eyes burning with fury, he bellowed one last command to his soldiers, a desperate final attempt to crush humanity's resistance. "You may have won this battle, but the war is far from over. You will feel the wrath of the Empire." Kor's gaze locked with his, her face set in stone. "Then let's make sure it's the last time you ever threaten us." The battle on Zephyros was far from over, but the tide had irrevocably turned. The Empire's once impenetrable control room now lay in ruins, and its communication networks were fractured beyond repair. Kor stood in the heart of the destroyed command center, her gaze locked on Vornak, whose fury had shifted into something darker, more dangerous. He was still alive, barely, but his Empire's hopes of crushing humanity had just crumbled. Vornak's final words echoed through her mind, and she couldn't ignore the rage burning behind his eyes. He may have underestimated the resilience of humanity, but it was clear now that he wasn't going down without a fight. "Captain," Devereaux called out from the doorway, pulling Kor's attention away from the alien commander. "We've got movement. The enemy is retreating from the battlefield." The realization hit her like a thunderclap. The Empire was on the run. The loss of their flagship's command center, coupled with the crippling blow to their communication infrastructure, had fractured the once cohesive alien force. But that didn't mean victory was guaranteed. Vornak's final warning still loomed large in Kor's mind. "We need to end this now," Kor said, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "If we don't destroy their fleet, this won't be over. Earth's not safe until we wipe them out completely." Devereaux nodded, her face grim but determined. "The Vigilant is still holding, but barely. We need reinforcements to ensure the fleet doesn't regroup." Kor looked down at the wreckage of the control room. The loss of this battle had cost the Empire dearly, but they were far from defeated. "We need to move fast," she said, rallying her team. "Prepare for a full assault on the enemy fleet. They can't escape this time." Without another word, the team moved into action. Harlan began pulling up tactical data on the destroyed command console, trying to locate the remaining strength of the alien fleet. "I've got their positions," he said, his fingers flying over the interface. "They're regrouping near the edge of the system, under heavy escort." Kor's mind raced as she processed the information. The aliens were desperate, but they weren't without resources. If they could force a retreat now, they might be able to crush them in a decisive blow. "Take the Vigilant to the fleet's rear," she ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We'll hit them where it hurts. No mercy." The team moved swiftly, leaving the control room to the rest of the troops they had brought with them. As they made their way to the landing bays, Kor couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a final assault. The Vigilant wasn't just the last human warship. It was humanity's symbol of defiance, their final reckoning. The destruction of the alien fleet meant wiping out any hope the Zithar Empire had left. As they boarded their ships, the communication line buzzed with a message from Dracos aboard the Vigilant. "Captain, we've got incoming reinforcements," he said, voice thick with exhaustion. "We've lost too many, but we're not alone anymore. Humanity's other ships are jumping in from the fringes." Kor's heart surged. Reinforcements from Earth. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer backing down. They had come to reclaim their future. The Vigilant surged forward, breaking through the debris of fallen ships and heading straight for the alien fleet. Kor stood at the front of the bridge, her eyes fixed on the fleet ahead. The enemy was regrouping, but their unity was fractured. They were ripe for the final strike. On the surface of Zephyrus, the ground trembled beneath the boots of Kor's soldiers as they advanced, securing the last of the Empire's strongholds. The alien resistance was scattered and leaderless, their forces dwindling with every passing minute. The galaxy was on the cusp of a new dawn. Kor spoke quietly to herself, a cold fire burning in her chest. This is the end for them. No more destruction. No more lives taken. Only justice. As the battle raged in the heavens above, humanity's reckoning was at hand. The final blow was within reach. The final battle had begun, and every ship in humanity's fleet, now bolstered by reinforcements from across the galaxy, surged toward the remnants of the Zithar Empire's forces. The Vigilant led the charge, its weapons blazing with relentless fury. Kor stood on the command deck, her eyes fixed on the alien fleet that now scattered in desperation, their once mighty formation crumbling under the weight of humanity's unyielding resistance. "Captain, we've got a clear path to their flagship," Dracos reported, his voice crackling over the comms. "It's heavily guarded, but we've got enough firepower to break through." Kor nodded, her gaze hardening. "Then let's make sure they don't escape. They've terrorized the galaxy for too long. Today, it ends." The Vigilant tore through the remains of the Zithar fleet, its cannons sending enemy ships spiraling into oblivion. Every shot was a statement. Humanity would no longer be oppressed, would no longer cower. The alien invaders had underestimated Earth, and now they would pay the price. Below, the surface of Zephyrus was a battlefield of its own. Kor's soldiers moved with lethal precision, mopping up the last remnants of the Empire's ground forces. The alien invaders had no place left to hide, no defenses left to fall back on. Every corner they turned, every structure they tried to fortify, was met with the unrelenting force of humanity's resolve. As the battle above and below reached its crescendo, Kor's mind remained focused on the final objective. The Vigilant was closing in on the Zithar flagship, and the time had come to face their leader, the one who had commanded the destruction of Earth and its colonies. "Commander Vornek." "Captain, the flagship is within range," Dracos said. "All cannons are charged, ready to strike when you give the order." Kor felt her pulse quicken. This was it, the moment that would determine the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. The alien empire had brought this upon themselves, and now humanity would deliver the justice they had so long been denied. "Target the flagship's central core," Kor ordered. "One shot is all we need." The Vigilant's guns roared to life as the ship's cannons unleashed a barrage of focused energy. The blast hit the flagship dead center, sending shockwaves through the entire fleet. The Zithar flagship trembled, its once pristine hull beginning to fracture. For a moment, the galaxy held its breath. Then, with a violent explosion, the flagship erupted in a brilliant display of fire and light. The heart of the Zithar Empire, reduced to cosmic dust. Kor's eyes narrowed, her breath held as the shockwave rippled outward, obliterating the last vestiges of the alien fleet. The threat had been vanquished. But there was no celebration, not yet. Kor's eyes remained fixed on the wreckage, her mind still racing. There would be no peace until the last remnants of the Empire were scattered, no justice until every alien who had contributed to the atrocities was held accountable. This victory was a beginning, not an end. "Captain, the fleet is in disarray," Deverop reported from the comms. We've disabled their remaining warships. The Zithar Empire's forces are no longer a threat. Kor exhaled, her shoulders sagging for a brief moment. The weight of everything they had fought for, the lives they had lost, and the future they had secured, hung in the air. It wasn't just about vengeance. It was about survival. It was about the future of Earth. "We've done it," she said, her voice steady, though the storm of emotion behind it was palpable. Humanity's reckoning is complete. As the remnants of the Zithar Empire scattered into the void, the crew of the Vigilant stood united, their faces grim but filled with hope. They had delivered justice, not just for Earth, but for every world the Empire had destroyed. The galaxy would never forget the price of underestimating humanity. And as the stars stretched before them, a new chapter began. Humanity had risen from the ashes of its past, and the universe would never be the same again.